How long do you think you could survive adrift on the open ocean, surrounded on every side by more water than you could ever drink? For a Viking crew, the answer was measured in days, because the sea itself was trying to kill them from the inside out. Dehydration was the silent killer that doomed more Norse sailors than any storm or any enemy blade. By the end of this, you'll know exactly how they cheated it. The 4 things they drank instead of the ocean. Start with the cruelest fact of life at sea. The water is right there. It laps against the hull, endless and cold and completely undrinkable. Seawater is roughly 4 times saltier than the fluid inside your own body, and when you swallow it, your kidneys are forced to produce urine saltier than the sea to flush the excess out. But they can't. To expel that salt, your body pulls water from your own tissues, meaning every mouthful of ocean leaves you thirstier than before. Drink enough, and you die faster than if you'd drunk nothing at all. So what did they carry instead? The obvious answer was to bring fresh water from home, and they did, sealed into wooden casks and stowed low in the hull. But here's the problem nobody warns you about. Fresh water does not stay fresh. Sealed in a warm, damp barrel for weeks, it becomes a breeding ground for algae and bacteria, turning slimy, green, and foul within days. A crew that trusted plain water alone would find their whole supply rotting long before the voyage ended. So the Norse did something clever. They mostly stopped storing plain water at all. Instead, they filled their casks with ale. Weak, sour shipboard ale was brewed with an ingredient plain water lacked: alcohol, plus the acidity of fermentation, both of which quietly poison the microbes that spoil water. A barrel of ale stayed drinkable far longer than a barrel of water, and it delivered a hit of calories on top of hydration. For short raids along the coast, ale was the backbone of a crew's supply. But ale was heavy. It took grain to brew, and on a long crossing it ran dry. What then? This is where the Norse produced their real secret weapon, and it came from the dairy farm, not the brewery. It was called Sýra, soured whey, the sharp acidic liquid left over from making cheese and skyr. Fermented and intensely sour, Sýra was so acidic that almost nothing could grow in it. Stored properly, it could keep not for weeks but for a year or more without spoiling. Sailors carried it in casks and drank it stretched out with water, a splash of sour whey turning questionable water into something that wouldn't sicken them. Mixed with water, this drink was called Blanda, and it was the everyday thirst-quencher of the entire Norse world, on land and at sea. The sourness wasn't just flavor. That acidity acted as a preservative for the water it was mixed into, buying precious extra days of drinkable fluid. Buttermilk and thinned skyr did the same job. In a world with no way to purify water, the Vikings had stumbled onto biology. Ferment it, sour it, and the rot has nowhere to take hold. But even fermented drinks eventually ran out. When the casks emptied on a long voyage, the crew looked up. Rain was the one source of truly fresh water the open ocean would ever give them, and Norse ships were unintentionally perfect for catching it. A great wool sail, slick with lanolin and often waterproofed with animal fat, would shed rainwater down toward the hull, where it could be funneled and collected. A single hard North Atlantic squall could refill a crew's supply in an afternoon, but rain doesn't fall on command, and thirst doesn't wait. So how did they cross an entire ocean? The truth is that most Viking voyages avoided the problem entirely by refusing to stray far from land. They were coastal sailors first, hugging the shoreline, hopping from fjord to fjord, and going ashore almost daily to refill their casks from streams and springs. Water was never meant to last the whole journey. It was meant to last until the next landing. But the great sagas remember the crossings that had no coastline. The open ocean runs to Iceland, to Greenland, to the very edge of the known world, where no stream waited for days on end. And this is the answer to how the Vikings beat the silent killer. They never invented a way to make seawater safe. No one could. Not then. Instead, they won by stacking every trick at once. They soured their supply with whey so it couldn't rot, brewed it into ale so it couldn't spoil, caught the rain their fat-soaked sails handed them, and above all, they planned their routes around fresh water the way we plan a road trip around fuel. Dehydration doomed the crews who ran out of margin. The survivors were simply the ones who never let the barrels run dry. They didn't conquer the ocean's thirst with technology. They outplanned it. If you want to see the same relentless ingenuity keep our ancestors alive against far worse odds, the next story is already waiting on your screen. Thanks for watching The First People.